Ulcerate!
Well, 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 well. Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's most metallic music nerd. I know this album really isn't news to anyone, but I feel like talking about it. These guys have been rockin' and reelin' in Auckland, New Zealand since about 2000. I hope someone gets that joke. And this is the band's third LP, and when it came out back in January, earlier this year, toward the end of that month, and I first heard it, I was not ready for it. I was not ready for this. I didn't assume this album to be bad, but I was not in a mental state to kind of take on a behemoth, a mammoth like this, and get into its intricacies and really try to understand it for what it is. You guys know from my previous reviews, I love detail in my albums, I love changes, I love surprises and left hooks, and when it comes to that, this album loves to tango. And not only that, but it is loud, it is dizzyingly technical, it is heavy, it is aggressive, so kind of revisiting this LP to take in more of its details is kind of like returning for more punishment. It's a death metal album. Maybe a technical death metal album. Not really a style I cover much on this channel. But the thing is, I honestly haven't loved much death metal since the genre's heyday. For me, the style's emphasis on being extreme has led to a lot of bands and albums shooting for studio tricks that kind of end up making their music sound loud, but a lot like plastic. And other records try to be more brutal through technicality, but end up kind of sounding like meaningless wankery that does not resonate with me on any level, even on musicianship. Thankfully, this album is a welcome change of pace from both of those things. Even though Destroyers of All sounds very, very expensive, the recording is so organic to me. The way the drums and guitars bounce off of each other feels so natural and just kind of keeps me invested into every twist and turn this album makes. And while it is really technical, the virtuosity these guys display doesn't just get wasted on showing you how great they are individually, but as a unit, crafting these spiraling metal songs that are just so easy to get lost in. Now, in comparison with Ulcerate's past two releases, this album is a slightly easier pill to swallow, but not by much. It's still a very overbearing set of 7 songs. Ulcerate is turning up the atmosphere and turning down the tempo a little bit, to the point where I could see even doom and sludge metal fans getting into this album. I know the first 3 tracks of this LP can be really intense, and if you're listening, they'll throw a lot at you. But if you manage to stick with Destroyers of All into its second half, it's really surprising to see how great these guys are at writing slower songs as well. The 4th track is a really brooding one that sounds basically like these guys are playing in an avant metal jam. And things get even heavier and atmospheric on my favorite track of this LP, OMENS, where the drumming is just great. It's just jumping from the left side to the right side. All the toms, all of the cymbals just sound like they're in different places. It's so panoramic. It's like hearing the drums dance around in this fog of distorted bass and guitar, and it builds up to the more aggressive moments in that song really seamlessly too. Now, the final track, which is the title track, justifies its 10-minute length and kind of crumbles the world that these guys just spent building with the previous 40 minutes of music. A really cinematic ending to this album. Now, if I were to name some problems I am having with this LP, I feel like maybe the vocals and the guitar tones too could have changed up a little bit and would have aided with being able to separate these songs in my head. Plus, some of these tracks are so Rubik's Cube-ish, like being puzzling is one of their best traits. And obviously, as I listen to this album again and again and again, that unpredictability kind of waned for me. I guess my only other issue with Destroyers of All is just with how prominent the drums are. And don't get me wrong, Jamie, the drummer from this band, is quite possibly the backbone. I mean, Ulcerate would not be Ulcerate if the drums were not this detailed, not this technical, not this flashy. But I think a little extra guitar volume would have brought the atmospheric element of this album kind of full circle. Plus, I think the bass kind of gets shafted on this album. Even though my finger isn't always on the pulse of this style of music, I'm not stupid. I know when I'm hearing something good. The tenets of creativity and interesting sounds still apply, no matter what the genre. And this LP definitely has a lot of that. Feeling a decent to strong 7 on this album. And if you are into metal music and this somehow slipped by you, I recommend you go back and listen to it. Anthony Fantano, Ulcerate, Destroyers of All. What do you think about this album? And what should I review next? Forever.